the day is temptation. Our Old Testament lesson is Adam and Eve and their temptations in the garden. We have an epistle today where St. Paul is talking about Adam's sin and how Christ has come to redeem it. Again, focusing on that temptation and its consequences. And now, especially in our gospel, we have Jesus himself being tempted by the devil, no less. I felt sure as I was working on today's sermon that there must be scientifically proven ways of avoiding temptation. And I decided to be your guy this morning. I did all the research, I read the journals, I made notes, I condensed them, I cleaned them up, I organized them, and I have for you 12 scientifically proven ways of avoiding temptation. So let's take a look at them briefly. And in case you're thinking, how can I remember 12 of anything? I also printed them out in a handout, which I made pink so you can even identify it from afar. You can get that on your way out today. Scientifically proven ways to avoid temptation. The first one is to say, I don't, instead of I can't. Scientists did some research where they brought people together. They had them create some long-term health and wellness goals. And then they told the first group, when you feel tempted to go off fall off the wagon, just say no. I won't do it. The second group, they said, say I can't. I can't avoid working out. I can't eat junk food. And the third group, they told to say I don't. I don't skip workouts. I don't eat junk food. Guess which one did best? Well, it's a joke. It must be the third. It's not a joke, but it's always the third one, isn't it? It turns out 30% just saying no worked. 10% saying I can't worked. And 80% of the people saying I don't found that it worked. Why did that work? Because I can't says, but I really want to. Oh, I know it would be good, but I really can't. I'm not allowed to enjoy this wonderful, glorious thing, and the next thing you know, it's like, well, maybe I can. I made the rule. I can change the rule. Saying I don't is a statement about identity. And it suggests that you have a choice and that you've made a choice and that the person you are is a person that does not do those things. Not that you can't, but that you won't. That you don't. I don't skip workouts. I don't eat junk food when I know that it's a time when I should eat something healthy. To say I don't is a statement of identity, and it makes you stronger in resisting temptation. The second one is to be a person who has healthy habits. It turns out that willpower is something that is weakened by temptation, and the longer you stay in temptation, the more your willpower is weakened because it takes mental effort and energy to resist a temptation. And eventually, when you don't have enough capacity or willpower or energy, you just succumb. You can't resist it anymore. It turns out that healthy habits are a structure that you can rely on. Let's say the temptation is drawing you towards it and you're trying to stop from your own power getting sucked in. Healthy habits are like a foundation you can hold on, and they perform some of the work. They will hold you back. They will give your life structure. Healthy habits make it so you don't need so much willpower, because every day at 3 o'clock you eat an apple with a little bit of peanut butter. And that habit keeps you strong so that when you're looking at the Raisinets, you're thinking, yeah, but now's the time when I eat the apple with peanut, and I sort of like the apple with peanut butter. And that healthy habit makes it require less energy to actually resist it. The healthy habit does the work for you. The third one is to surround yourself by a community of support. And that is to say that you put yourself in situations that will reinforce your commitments. So you don't go on a tour of the Raisinette factory where they give you free gifts at the end. You don't go on the tour because you know at the end of the tour you'll be surrounded by warehouse-level quantities of Raisinets. You don't put yourself in that circumstance. You surround yourself with things that will reinforce your choices, including circumstances and people. You don't hang out in the Raisinette Club anymore. That is something you used to do. you don't hang out with those people any longer. So I don't do those things. I have healthy habits that help to strengthen me, and I surround myself with a community of support and circumstances that will reinforce my strength. The fourth one is to be self-aware. It turns out that if you're not in a moment of sort of mental clarity, if you're sort of flying by the seat of your pants in sort of a visceral, body-led, sort of passionate kind of life, you're more likely to succumb to temptation, to say, sure, why not? To be mindful, to be self-aware, to have sort of an inner strength that you have built up in a capacity through meditation, through prayer, through practices of self-awareness, through spending time in quietness, through spending time in study, maybe time in walks, where you simply are resting and like being strengthened by the quiet strength of sort of the spirit around you. Self-awareness magnifies your ability to resist temptation on exponential levels. It pays off not only in a lower heart rate, and it's better for your mental health and your physical health, but it's much better for your spiritual health as well. An abundance mindset. The idea that I live in a scarce world where I have to work hard to get the things I need, or I won't get them because there's not enough for everybody and I need to get it and I need to hoard it. This sort of scarcity idea that's built in fear and in sense of absence makes people more likely to succumb to temptation. It's a mindset. Do you live in a world where you have to fight for what you get, and often you won't get it unless you work really hard, or maybe you need to be sneaky, or maybe you need to lie, or maybe you need to deceive other people, whatever it takes to get the stuff you need, because otherwise you will not get it, and you'll be left bereft of things that you absolutely need to survive. If you believe that, temptation is going to be all the more powerful. But if you believe everything I need is provided for me, I have access to all the things that I need for success and for survival. When I need food, I have food. I have plenty of food. I need friendships. I'm surrounded by friends. I need God's Spirit. God gives me himself in abundance. This idea of abundance that what I need abounds around me gives you the ability to say, I don't need to take this thing now. I have what I need. I don't need to sort of scrap and sneak to get this now. I am already filled and satisfied. The third one in this category, after I am self-aware and I have an abundance mindset, is visualizing yourself succeeding. It works for astronauts. It will work for you. It works for high-level athletes. Your body interprets visualization as real actions. If you see yourself doing hurdles over and over again, and then you get on a track with hurdles, your body's going to be like, I totally got this. And you'll be surprised that your body will actually start to do the things that you had been practicing in your head, even though you haven't ever run hurdles before. Now, maybe you're not thinking about running hurdles, but what you visualize becomes an experience in your mind that your brain will rely on. So you can visualize yourself encountering temptations and succeeding. See yourself succeeding. And that will create patterns in your mind that when the moment comes, you already know what to do. It's why we do wedding rehearsals the night before, because there's a physical memory, a body memory that follows what you have already done, so that in the wedding, people can just think about the wedding and not, where am I supposed to stand and how am I supposed to turn? Their bodies already know. If you visualized yourself in that circumstance, in that moment, and you see yourself succeeding, resisting temptation, making healthy choices, your body will be more likely to follow. The seventh one is to use mornings to your advantage. And now we're getting into strategies. It turns out, remember when I said that self-control involves energy, mental energy? It turns out people have more in the morning, and it wanes throughout the day. So you can use this to your advantage by doing the things in the morning that you'll be tempted not to do later. That is, let's say you want to exercise. Don't wait till 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Wake up and make exercise one of the first things that you do. You've got the strongest energy at that time, the strongest mental energy to resist any other kind of temptation and to make sure you do it. If you want to pray every day, do that in the morning when your mental strength is strongest. Use mornings to your advantage. All right. I knew it. Plan out alternatives. That is, think ahead of when you're going to be tempted and then put alternatives into place. So that is to say, at 3 o'clock, when you want to have Raisinets, you're aware at 3 o'clock you're going to want Raisinets, so put some alternatives in your life so at 3 o'clock you can choose something else. That is thinking ahead, creating alternatives, so that at 3 o'clock you already have apples, you bought the really best peanut butter, you've got some lovely plates out, you even bought yourself an apple corer, because it's kind of fun to core an apple and have this whole apple without the middle, and you're all ready to go. You've created alternatives that are all set, so that this is a strategy that when you're tempted, you're like, oh, I'm prepared for this, and this is the thing I'm now going to do instead of the temptation. The ninth one is therapy. Don't be afraid of therapy. A lot of times our temptations are deeply rooted in woundedness in our lives, in our story, and talking to someone who will listen and give you self-awareness can help you to defuse those things. Lots of times we carry with us stories that maybe were true or we believed were true when we were 5 or 6 or 8 or 10, and we still believe those things are true. Even though we don't live in that house with those people, we're adults now, we all have much increased capacity, greater wisdom, greater awareness in the world, but we still are using patterns that we developed when we were like infants and children. A therapist will talk to you about those circumstances, help you to find some peace with those, give yourself the ability, the permission to forgive those people, and then by healing that woundedness, oftentimes the wounds are fueling the temptation, and so it will diffuse the power of the temptation over us. The ninth one is to move quickly. It turns out that temptations, it's like gambling. I don't know if you're into gambling at all, but not that I'm into gambling, but there's a gambling thing where dopamine receptors go off in your mind, and it's like the promise of winning feels like a reward to your brain, and you just want to do it more and more. You want to win, you know what's going to come next, like that feeling, that rush that's drawing you towards this thing. To do that behavior is dopamine in your brain, where you're interpreting this thing as a reward already. And your brain has it, and it wants it, and you're like, I gotta have it, I need it. Temptation fires the very same things. They did some studies on rats, and it turned out that some rats, they had a signal that they were going to get fed. Sometimes when they rang the signal, some of the rats already felt like they were being fed. They were like, oh my God, food! And they couldn't wait. They were banging against the cage to get the food. The other rats, they heard the signal, and they're like, oh, okay, food's coming. That's fine. Whenever it comes, I'll be cool. And their brains didn't respond like that at all. Here's the thing to know, is that you're not going to beat dopamine. It's there for a reason. It's made our humanity survive for hundreds of thousands of years. You're not going to overcome it by your small sense of willpower, but you can if you move quick. So you got to move quick. The ninth one is to move quick. Don't linger in the temptation. Well, I know I'm not going to do it, but it feels really good to just think about it. I'm going to think about it just a little bit. I'm just going to imagine having it. Next thing you know, there it is in your hands, right? You cannot linger in temptation. You got to move quick. As soon as you realize it, you need to get it before you're absolutely flooded with these things that you have an increasingly diminishing chance of winning and beating over. So you move quickly. You've got to respond quickly. And in responding quickly, there's two things you can do, especially in that moment. One of them is to visualize the consequences. Not the immediate consequence, I get the thing I want, but the ultimate consequence. And here what you're doing is you're actually telling your brain, you're giving your brain pain signals, not reward signals. So you're thinking, if I violate my marriage in this moment, my marriage vows, my whole life will be destroyed. The better you can make the consequences horrible, this is visualizing consequences, the more effective it will be. So make them dire. I lose everything. My spouse leaves me. Everyone that I know hates me. I become poor. I end up on the street. I'm cold. I'm hungry. I get picked up by people in a van, and the next thing I know, I've been sold into slavery in Bolivia, and I'm working in a ruby mine, and all of that happened because I was going to succumb to this temptation. Wait, I haven't done it yet. Well, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to be good in a ruby mine, and it's not worth it. Visualize the consequences, not the immediate valuable ones, but ultimate dire consequences, and it will help you. And the 12th one is to physically move. Like I said, move quickly, like change your environment. Like throw away all the Raisinets in your house. Then you're not going to eat Raisinets. In the moment of temptation, get up, leave the room, go outside, go for a walk, look at the flowers, make dinner, call somebody you care about. Physically changing your circumstance, the studies I read said has a huge power of helping people avoid temptation, and they don't do it. You know why? Because people think, well, it's really an internal struggle. Temptation's an internal struggle, so I should just stay here in the moment and fight internally in my spirit. People underestimate the power of changing their circumstances, how dramatically that will reduce the temptation. Now here we can look and see that all of these things are found in Jesus' story today in front of Satan. Satan is trying to tempt Jesus, and Jesus is able to say, I don't listen to Satan, and I don't use my power to serve myself. I serve God. Jesus is a person who says, who has established healthy habits so that in his life he already has a life of prayer, he already has a life of service, he already has patterns of reading scripture, so that when Satan comes against him, these healthy habits are his strength already behind him. Jesus has surrounded himself with support. He's ministered by angels. He's connected to his Father. Ultimately, he'll be surrounded by disciples. All of this community helps him to have the resistance that he needs to resist Satan in that moment. Jesus, if anybody is self-aware through prayer and meditation, it is Jesus who spends that time, the scriptures tell us, frequently in close connection with God, strengthening his heart and in his spirit. Jesus knows that there's an abundance mindset. He knows that all he needs will be given to him by the Father. So who is this devil guy who's promising him something? If it's good, God will give it to me. And so why do I have to listen to you? Gives him the ability to resist it. Jesus can see himself already turning away from Satan. He can see himself already going up to the cross. He can see himself already giving himself to God and being glorified. And that visualization makes the things that Satan has to say against him absolutely null and void. We also have in the scriptures a sense of Jesus often using time in the mornings, where they'll say, where is he? They'll get up even before anyone else while it's still dark, and Jesus is already in the morning up on the mountain in prayer. Jesus has all of the things that you might say alternatives planned out in any of the circumstances or problems that he might have in his life. He can already see the things that he'll need to do instead. And I don't know if Jesus had therapy. But it seems to me that he certainly was open. He was open to talking truth with John the Baptist. He received guidance and direction from his mother and from his father. He certainly talked deep truths with his disciples. He had a community of support that helped to magnify that strength in him. And most of all, you can see Jesus moving quickly. When Satan comes against him, he responds immediately, right? His response is quick. And why? Because I'm sure Jesus can see not just, oh, I'll have food. He can see what happens if I follow Satan. The whole world will be destroyed. And recognizing that, Satan's temptations have no power over him. And in fact, the fact that his three temptations come so fast, you can see Jesus is changing his circumstance. He's getting out of the moment into a new one, and suddenly he's on the temple, and he leaves that moment, and suddenly he's on the mountain, and he leaves that moment, and what happens? Suddenly Satan departs from him. There is a 13th tip, and that is God, scientifically proven, and we can see God at work in all of these things. God, the one who promises us, who strengthens us, who draws us forward. The scriptures say, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Will you say that with me? I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me.